Hello guys, Ancient Gameplays, I'm Fabio Pisco and welcome to my channel.
Welcome.
And as for this video, I'm really happy to bring you another GPU comparison. In the previous video of the review that I made with the 9070 XT, I actually made the 9070 XT versus the 7900 XT, versus the 7900 XTX, and I also included the 4080 Super. But for today's video we're gonna make something more of the same tier, so the 7800 XT, for example, that has 60 compute units versus the 9070 XT that has 64. And I also put in the mix the 4070 Super because there are lots of people that want to know if it is really worth the upgrade going from, for example, the 4070 Super or the 7800 XT to the 9070 XT, and that's mainly the reason I'm making this video, for you guys to see if it is worth the upgrade for you or not, especially for people that have older cards than these ones like the 6900 XT and so on. So let's talk about pricing. Starting in America and with the 7800 XT, we have it at around $529, which is actually a fairly decent price. Not a great price to be honest, but fairly decent in today's market. Then we have the 4070 Super, which is the minimum price that I could get was $900, and it's basically out of stock everywhere, so it is kind of a no-buy with only the 4070 cards being available, so the non-super cards, which usually are slower than the 7800 XT. And then we have the 9070 XT at $599 with still a bit of stock at Micro Center. Newegg didn't really have stock for the 9070 XT, but it seems that Micro Center do have some, especially 25 plus on the MSRP model, and then we have even more stock in other models, so it kind of depends on the store, I guess. Even in Europe we can get some decent prices. So going to Europe now, we have the 7800 XT at 549 euros, which again is not that bad, not great, but not that bad. With the 4070 Super it is basically the same. Almost every single store that I looked at, there weren't any 4070 Super available to buy, just zero. And even if I went to the 4070, the prices would be just crazy high, which is really saddening. And as for the 9070 XT, we do have some MSRP models at $699, and we did have more this morning, and they actually had a lot of them, but it is out of stock now. We have more models, but they are going for like 800 euros and so on, but they're basically every single one out of stock. We do have more 9070 non-XT cards than the XT ones. I heard that MSRP will increase in USA, maybe due to the tariffs and so on, but I don't really know. As for Europe, it seems that the prices will get to be more or less the same since the tariffs are the same as well. And well, now that you know the prices, should you be upgrading or not your card? If you have a 4070 Super or a 7800 XT or even an older card than those ones? Let's find out. But before, let's find out today's sponsor. Today's video sponsor is GVG Mall, bringing you lots of software deals like Windows 10, Windows 11, Office 2019 or 2021 with a new Windows 11 design, and for all of these you can use my SKG discount code for 30% off, getting a Windows 11 serial key for $22 and a Windows 10 one for only $15. Then use the key on your Windows settings and you'll have an activated system. Starting with Cinebench R24, we don't really have the results for the RX 9070 XT at all. It seems the software still didn't get updated for this GPU, and the same exact thing applies to the RTX 5080, the card that I benchmarked before the 9070 XT. Budget benchmark with Premiere 24 does work though, and even though this test focuses on both CPU and GPU performance, we can see a small improvement or a small increase comparing the 9070 XT versus the 7800 XT. Nothing spectacular, but it is there. But as we go into image generation with Procyon, we can immediately see a huge 99% performance increase compared to the 7800 XT. Which means we basically have double the performance, getting even faster than the 4070 Super when using ONNX. That same 4070 Super is 11% faster than the 9070 XT when using Tensor RT, but still small difference. And in terms of real time, this means that the 7800 XT takes 4.5 seconds to generate one image, while the 9070 XT takes only 2.3 seconds, which is an outstanding improvement for people working a lot with image generation. Going into VR benchmarks, we start with the Orange Room, where we get the 4070 Super being slightly faster than the other two cards, with the 9070 XT maybe lacking some optimization here, I guess. Although, as we go into the Blue Room, where things get way more GPU heavy, we have the 9070 XT being 31% faster than the 7800 XT and 24% faster than the 4070 Super. As for Blender, we don't really have the results for the RX 9070 XT because either Open Data doesn't support it yet or the drivers don't support Open Data. It is one of the two, I guess. Our first game tested is Assetto Corsa, and we all know that Nvidia performs very well in this title, with the 4070 Super being at 1080p 9% faster than the 7800 XT, with the 9070 XT being slightly faster, but not really by that much. At 1440p we have the 9070 XT being 27% faster than the 7800 XT, which is a fairly good improvement, and 11% faster than the 4070 Super. And it is only at 4K that the difference goes up to 20%, with the 9070 XT being also 41% faster than the 7800 XT at 4K max settings, delivering over 90 FPS. Counter-Strike 2 is one of the most played titles currently, and there is also a DX11 title, and that's why we see the 4070 Super outperforming the 7800 XT once more. At 1440p things get interesting. It seems the 7800 XT gained some ground, but the 9070 XT lost it, being barely faster than the 4070 Super and only 17% faster than the 7800 XT. At 4K though, we get the 4070 Super basically matching the 9070 XT that is now 21% faster than the 7800 XT. I really believe these results could improve on the AMD side with some more driver optimizations. Call of Duty games tend to like AMD GPUs a lot, and even comparing the 4080 Super to the 7900 XTX, the XTX takes the lead by quite a bit. The 7800 XT seems to be different though, being now on par with the 4070 Super, and with the 9070 XT being 31% faster at 1080p and 35% faster at 1440p, which is a lot considering the 9070 XT only has 4 more compute units. At 4K the 9070 XT still does an amazing job, delivering around 100 FPS, while the other two cards stay on the 70s. Cyberpunk 2077 is a game that performs quite well on RDNA 3, and RDNA 4 seems to improve upon that. Although we need to go to 1440p in order to remove the CPU bottleneck here, and now the difference is huge, with the 9070 XT being over 41% faster than the other two cards. And it works very well at 4K too, being now 53% faster than the 7800 XT and 68% faster than the 4070 Super, being also the only card able to deliver over 60 FPS at 4K Ultra native resolution. Hogwarts Legacy usually performed better on the AMD GPUs, and you can watch my 9070 XT review video and see that at 1080p the 9070 XT is actually faster than the 4080 Super, and this leads me to believe that the 7800 XT does need a driver update that fixes its performance, maybe. The 9070 XT still performs exceptionally well here, being at 1440p up to 49% faster than the 7800 XT and 41% faster than the 4070 Super, which is a massive difference. And it doesn't really change at 4K, where the 9070 XT simply dominates as well. Again, as it should. And Microsoft Flight Simulator is an actual interesting scenario because the RTX 3000 series weren't that good against RDNA 2 in this game, while the RTX 4000 series performed very well against RDNA 3. At 1440p things don't really change much, with the 4070 Super being 23% faster than the 7800 XT and the 9070 XT being 37% faster, showing how much RDNA 4 improved here. At 4K things are more or less the same, again with the 9070 XT being the only card able to achieve over 60 average FPS at ultra settings. As for Alan Wake 2, even though the game is fully packed with Nvidia features, and Remedy will go to Mars before updating the game to at least FSR 3.1, AMD cards do perform generally better than their Nvidia counterparts in this game. At 1440p, we have both the 4070 Super and 7800 XT matched, with the 9070 XT being around 46% faster, which again shows a massive improvement with RDNA 4. Like you can see at 4K, where the 9070 XT is the only card pushing over 45 FPS, being 49% faster than the 7800 XT. Black Myth Wukong is an exceptional game. Although it is another case scenario where the developers didn't really optimize the game for AMD cards, and AMD didn't really optimize their cards for the game either, which is kind of a bummer. Although we can see that RDNA 4 works much better in this game. At 1440p, the 7800 XT is completely annihilated by the 4070 Super, that is 24% faster. Not even speaking about how much better the LSS is in this game, because it is the LSS 4 versus FSR 2. At 4K, we have the 9070 XT being the only card able to deliver over 60 FPS, being 17% faster than the 4070 Super, which is not bad, and 43% faster than the 7800 XT. And Avatar Frontiers of Pandora also shows another nice scenario for the 9070 XT. This game uses ray tracing all the time and you can't really disable it for some settings, and this is why the Nvidia cards tend to thrive here. But being 1080p or 1440p, even with ray tracing, the 9070 XT still comes out as the winner, being only 11% faster than the 4070 Super. And at 4K, the 9070 XT is also the only card being able to deliver 60 average FPS, while being 43% faster than the 7800 XT. Massive win for sure. And Starfield is one of those titles that started performing much better on the AMD side, but as it got updated, the Nvidia cards just started getting better, I guess. And I can tell you that most of the times, RDNA 3 isn't fully utilized due to its MCM design. And this is one of the cases where the 9070 XT can match the 7900 XTX's performance due to that, I believe. Watch my 9070 XT review video, by the way. As for the results, and moving to 1440p, we have the 9070 XT being 42% faster than the 7800 XT and 45% faster at 4K, being once more the only card able to deliver over 60 average FPS at 4K Ultra native resolution. Now, AMD has been really slow with the new drivers for the last months, and I believe the reason was that they were working on the RDNA 4 drivers, of course. And I can almost say for sure that games like S.T.A.L.K.E.R, Silent Hill 2 and some others, I guess, had basically zero optimizations for most cards. But let's hope that changes very soon. As for the results, we have the 9070 XT performing quite poorly at 1080p, matching the 4070 Super, but as soon as we move to 1440p, it starts getting ahead of it. Not by much in terms of averages, but quite ahead in terms of 1% lows, indicating a much smoother gameplay. Something that gets more or less maintained at 4K, where all cards deliver subpar performance without any kind of upscaling, of course. And remember when I talked about games that had zero optimizations? This is one of them. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 runs the Crytek engine that is very well known to benefit Nvidia GPUs, and that's perfectly fine. What is not fine is seeing the lack of driver optimizations for this title on the AMD side. At least we can see that RDNA 4 architecture works much better here, with the 9070 XT slightly outperforming the 4070 Super while being 65% faster than the 7800 XT. At 1440p we get more GPU driven and the 9070 XT starts pulling ahead of the 4070 Super, as it should in all scenarios, and at 4K it is 24% faster than the 4070 Super and 52% faster than the 7800 XT. RDNA 4 is indeed looking good. And the same happens with God of War Ragnarok. I was honestly impressed to see the Nvidia cards were running better on this game compared to the AMD RDNA 3 ones, even though this game was made for consoles. But I guess the game engine just doesn't really favor the higher latencies that come with having several dies, I guess. As for the results, at 1080p, the 9070 XT is 28% faster than the 4070 Super and a whopping 61% faster than the 7800 XT. At 1440p the difference drops to 53%, which is still a lot, but the difference compared to the 4080 Super raises 1% to 29%. At 4K, the 4070 Super is now 14% faster than the 7800 XT, which is still too much in my opinion, and the 9070 XT is, as expected, the best card overall, being 35% faster than the 4070 Super and 54% faster than the 7800 XT. With Silent Hill 2 we have the 7800 XT performing exceptionally bad. And moving to 1440p doesn't really change much, sadly, with the 4070 Super having the same FPS at 1440p that the 7800 XT had at 1080p, which is massive. The 9070 XT does show a massive improvement though, being faster than the 4070 Super by 11%, difference that gets reduced to 8% at 4K. Still, we can see how massively RDNA 4 got improved for some game engines compared to RDNA 3, and that is a very good sign for the future, I believe. Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2 seems to be better optimized for AMD cards, even though the 4070 Super is the fastest card at 1080p somehow. We really need more optimizations on the AMD side, to be honest, and going to 1440p makes the 9070 XT take the lead by 9%, being also 25% faster than the 7800 XT. Also, it must be noted that the AMD cards have better 1% lows here, just as a note of course. At 4K the 9070 XT makes the gaps larger, being now 26% faster than the 4070 Super and 35% faster than the 7800 XT. This is one of those games where the 7900 XTX is considerably better than the 9070 XT, as can be seen in my review video. And to close this chapter we have Hellblade 2, another game running Unreal Engine 5. But this time we have the 7800 XT performing decently well compared to the 4070 Super, with the 9070 XT being better, like at 1440p, where it is 28% better than the 4070 Super and 41% better than the 7800 XT. Remember, the 9070 XT only has 4 more compute units than the 7800 XT, 64 versus 60, meaning that the architectural changes were very good. And at 4K the only card being able to deliver again over 60 FPS, in this case around 70, is the 9070 XT, that is, as expected, the most powerful card here. As for the averages, we have the 4070 Super as the base performance, and at 1080p the 7800 XT delivers at most 90% of the 4070 Super stock performance, and I believe that happens due to the lack of optimizations for the last 6 months for games that came recently, I would say, with the 9070 XT being up to 20% faster. At 1440p the difference increases to 24%, with the RX 7800 getting some ground too, and at 4K the difference increases further, with the 9070 XT being up to 30% faster than the stock 4070 Super and 40% faster than the 7800 XT, which is a very good performance improvement architecturally wise. And to be honest, it is kind of the 7900 GRE that is the direct competitor to the 4070 Super and not the 7800 XT, so it kind of makes sense that it is slightly slower, I guess. And well, now that you saw the rasterization performance and you see that on average, yeah, that's my cat, and you see that on average the 9070 XT can be up to 30-something% better than the 4070 Super at stock, maybe 20-something better than the 4070 Super at stock, you see that the difference isn't that much. In some cases, in some games, we do have a big difference when going for the 9070 XT, but generally the difference is not much. But when going from the 7800 XT to the 9070 XT, the difference is over 40%, which makes it a big deal. But what RDNA 4 really brings to the table is ray tracing performance. So rasterization was indeed a big jump, but ray tracing is the real deal with RDNA 4. Ray tracing wise, things got very interesting indeed, and while the 4070 Super was completely demolishing the 7800 XT ray tracing wise, being 72% faster, the 9070 XT actually outmatches it, being at native 1080p or with upscaling. And the same happens at 1440p, with the 9070 XT being 7% faster than the 4070 Super when running ray tracing, being it natively or with upscaling. For a perspective, the 9070 XT in Cyberpunk 2077 Ultra settings with Ultra ray tracing is 84% faster than the 7800 XT. What a massive increase that we have here. And at 4K it is more of the same, with the 9070 XT being the fastest card delivering 30 FPS at native 4K with ray tracing. Resident Evil 4 is a much lighter title ray tracing wise, but these scenarios need to be tested as well. At 1080p we have the 7800 XT almost matching the 4070 Super in raster, but being slower in ray tracing, with the 9070 XT being much faster in both scenarios of course, which still happens at 1440p, with the 9070 XT being 35% faster than the 4070 Super, even with ray tracing enabled, and with the 7800 XT finally kind of catching up. At 4K, all cards deliver very good results to be honest, with the 9070 XT being at least 35% faster than the other two cards. The Witcher 3 is one of the most interesting scenarios that I've seen so far, with the 9070 XT showing a massive uplift of 36% in rasterization performance, but most importantly, 75% performance increase when using ray tracing, even outmatching the 4070 Super here, which is insane. But it doesn't stop here. At 1440p we have the 9070 XT murdering the other two cards, with or without ray tracing, with ray tracing being 25% faster than the 4070 Super and a whopping 91% faster than the 7800 XT. Call the ambulance! And at 4K the difference is even crazier, with the 9070 XT delivering more than double the performance of the 7800 XT with ray tracing enabled, being also the only card able to deliver over 70 FPS in this particular scenario. And if we're speaking about Alan Wake 2 with path tracing, things also get extreme, with the 9070 XT being much faster than the 4070 Super without it, but still being able to match it when using it. And remember that the Nvidia cards have ray reconstruction in this game as well as the denoiser, because if they had the normal denoiser from the game as the AMD cards do, the 4070 Super would perform much worse. At 1440p things stay around the same, with the 9070 XT delivering double the path tracing performance as the 7800 XT. And at 4K we have a beautiful slideshow with all cards, with the 4070 Super finally outperforming the 9070 XT. But I mean, it's 2 FPS. And by this time you saw rasterization and ray tracing performance. And if rasterization was a big hit, ray tracing is even a bigger one, with the 9070 XT getting faster usually than the 4070 Super, matching it in games like Cyberpunk 2077 that are kind of a demo tech for Nvidia, or a tech demo or tech demo, whatever you want to say, or whatever you say correctly, doesn't really matter. But even in those games that are severely constrained with lots of Nvidia technologies, even there the 9070 XT is able to match the 4070 Super's performance in terms of ray tracing, being almost double the performance of the 7800 XT in some scenarios like path tracing in Alan Wake 2. And again, now that you know rasterization and ray tracing performance, let's take a look at frame generation. This because In some scenarios, you might have the same base frame rates, but since frame generation technologies, DLSS frame generation and FSR frame generation are different, and the card architectures are different as well, with the same base frame rates, you might be able to have more or less FPS, or more or less smoothness. So let's find out. Starting with Space Marine 2, we can see that AMD still delivers higher smoothness with their frame generation technology, because while the 4070 Super has more base frames than the 9070 XT here, the same delivers 20% better smoothness, not even mentioning the much higher 1% lows, of course. At 1440p, even the 7800 XT that has considerably lower base frames can outperform the 4070 Super smoothness-wise, which is cool to see, of course. And at 4K, the AMD cards just get much more ground. And if the difference seen between the 4070 Super and 9070 XT was about 10 FPS, with frame generation it is 30 FPS, which makes the overall experience a lot smoother on the AMD card. Moving to S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2, the difference is even more noticeable, with the 9070 XT delivering almost the same base frames as the 4070 Super, but delivering 29% better smoothness at 1080p. At 1440p things get maintained, nothing really different at all I guess, and at 4K we have the 9070 XT delivering around 85 FPS, while the 4070 Super is pushing 64. And of course frame generation still has the added latency and so on, but smoothness wise things are considerably better on the AMD side here. And Call of Duty games always tend to deliver the most nonsense results that I can see. At 1080p we see that frame generation isn't working with the 9070 XT, with us having less FPS than without it, which doesn't really make sense, because as we move to 1440p it seems to be working. Kind of, delivering better smoothness than native, but not as it should somehow. And as we move to 4K things get even more ridiculous. Now, frame generation is working much better on the 9070 XT, but at the same time it is working much worse on the 7800 XT that barely gets a smoothness increase. Anyways, I contacted AMD about these 9070 XT issues here, but I guess I need to inform them about the 7800 XT ones as well. And well, now that you saw every single data that I have to present you, and I hope that you really enjoyed it, by the way, should you be upgrading your card or not really? Now, in my opinion, and again, this is only my opinion, if you have a 4070 Super, you're perfectly fine. If you do want to upgrade to something like the 9070 XT or the 4080 Super, you are more than welcome, or even if you want to spend your kidney and just upgrade to the 5080, if you can find one, just do it, or the 4090. It is, as always, up to you, but in my opinion, if you are playing just fine right now, and if you already have the 4070 Super, you are perfectly fine. Now, if you want that extra performance for not that much money, especially since you can sell the 4070 Super, then you can go to the 9070 XT. Because even though the 4070 Super has the DLSS4, and the DLSS4 is very good, by the way, so you can actually get a bit more of performance there, the 9070 XT also has FSR4, and as you can see in videos from like Digital Foundry and so on, yes, FSR4 does perform very well in terms of quality, performance and so on, so it is a big win, I would say, for AMD to be able to go from FSR 3.1.3 to FSR 4 and make it hugely better. Now, if you have the 4070 Super, again, the LSS transformer model is still better generally in like almost every scenario, and that's a win for the 4070 Super, and that's why I'm telling you that if you have the 4070 Super, yeah, just leave it be unless you really need more VRAM and so on, because it is still a very good card. If you have the 7800 XT, well, the 9070 XT is just a spectacular upgrade because it is up to 40% faster in rasterization, almost double the performance in ray tracing, or even double in some scenarios like path tracing, and you have FSR4, which is miles better than the FSR 3.1.3 that we have currently on the 7800 XT. On top of that, you have more AI capabilities. I mean, it's just a huge upgrade. And if you have cards like the 6950 XT, if you have cards like even the 7900 GRE, I would say that the 9070 XT is a pretty nice upgrade. If you have higher tier cards, well, I believe that this card is not for you, unless you really want FSR4. So conclusion of the conclusion, if you have the 4070 Super, just skip it. If you want something a bit more powerful, the 9070 XT might be the way to go, especially if you want to go back to AMD. If you have a 7800 XT or an older card, let's say again the 6900 XT, the 6800 XT, and especially cards below that, 6700 XT and so on, or even cards from the lower 7000 series tiers like 7700 XT and so on. In those specific scenarios, then the 9070 XT is again an even bigger update and is a big yes for people that want an upgrade path, with FSR4 getting better in the future as well. So yeah. Thank you very much for watching this video. See you in the next one, I guess. I'll be testing the new drivers, the 25.3.1, and I'll show you that even for the 7000 series, we have some very interesting things like ray tracing performance and path tracing performance for some cards was improved, and even the overall general performance was also a bit improved, which is great to see. And for the 9070 cards, we have AI chat, we have many other things on the software, AFMF 2.1, that is also for the older cards too. And we have more things like Radeon Image Sharpening 2 and so on. And we also have a new update on lossless scaling that I'll be covering as well. So it's just much work to do, and I can't do it because I'm currently I'm working alone. So there's so much that a man can do. Thank you very much for watching this video, and see you in the next one. Cheers.